Welcome to another episode of Film Speak. I am your host, Bill, and I'm joined this week by Rusty Pesarak as we talk about the films that guys love. What do you think of guy films?
Well, let's see. I think of films like Arnold and Stallone, Commando, Rambo. Those are the kind of man films that I think of.
I think of Bond, James Bond. My entire life I've watched that whole franchise and continue to today. Did you see Skyfall?
Sure did. Loved it.
That movie was incredible.
Great. Yeah, and I'm sort of a Sean Connery guy myself.
I've always felt that Lazenby got a raw deal. To date, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the only Bond movie that got me to cry.
Wait, there's no crying in man films.
I can't help it. I feel stuff.
Well, keep that to yourself. As we welcome local filmmakers Eric Whiting and Tommy Stamper to talk about what they've been going on and what they think of guy films.
Then we will break down the classic film, The Chinese Connection. This movie helped create a genre that changed the world forever.
So we'll see you at the table after we watch some of these films that Eric has brought us, and take it away.
We'll see you at the table.
perched on a hilltop. No home to dwell. Deserted space is my only shelter, though the land remains vacant. Rations and resources diminish, tied to a poison. Burning broken glass severs my weather-beaten feet. Too little to give in with too little to return, or travel any further. My body wishes to die, yet my mind says persevere. Amidst the desolation came the greatest deception. Join us and we will free you. Promise has proven nothing more than servitude, sliding slowly along a razor's edge between two worlds, neither of which hold rest for me. The hunter's howl beckons. I can't restrain much longer.
I barely remember yesterday, or the day before that. I just follow the road. That's all I've ever done. And all that's left for me.
Hi, welcome back to Film Speak. We're sitting here joined by Tommy and Eric, and of course, co-host for today, Rusty. We're going to talk about what projects these two have going on right now, and about guy films. You know what the man film era is. Now we'll start with you, Eric.
Hey.
What exactly do you have going on right now?
Right now, well, recently I finished my first feature film called Hellhounds. It's an experimental horror thriller about an alcoholic drifter who's roaming through the backwoods of Ohio, basically. He believes he's sold his soul to this spiritual entity who is on his trail, and he believes he's fleeing from demons at all turns and corners, basically. It comes to a point where he can't quite figure out what's real and what's in his head. Like, everything is just a big fever dream to him, and he ends up committing a lot of atrocities on the way and loses control of himself. And majority of the film is shot in first-person mode, so when you watch it, you get to experience a lot of the world through his eyes. And Yeah, that movie took me 2 years to finish. I just released it in November. And I guess if you want a quick sound alike, I would consider it to be kind of like, well, my big influences were Eraserhead and No Country for Old Men, so it's like a mix of those two movies, I guess.
Well, the way you were describing it, because you didn't say he did these things, you said it seems and stuff. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of American Psycho. Because, you know, at the end, it kind of takes away with did all these things happen or they happen inside his head.
Yeah.
You know? And plus the whole, I think I may have killed a lot of people.
But, because, yeah, with Hellhounds, a lot of this stuff is kind of up for interpretation a little bit like American Psycho and very much from the perspective of a deranged mind.
Very nice. That sounds like a nice different take on the genre. Kind of combining different elements from films and stuff. Very cool. How about you, Tommy? What are you up to lately?
I just did a scene in The Architect of Chaos, which is coming out May 3rd. And then I'm currently working on a project called The Underground, where I get to play a character who has autism. So that's been pretty fun trying to research autism a little bit. So that's currently, excuse me, what I'm doing right now.
Do you find researching into characters like that helps you get in touch with them?
It does, weirdly, it does. I'm finding similarities and ways that I could figure out how like somebody with autism would approach any situation, and taking that mindset and then looking at the script and just going, how would somebody with autism say this, or how would they say it like that, you know? It's been really challenging but fun, really fun.
That's a good way to approach things. Now, we talk about man films and the films that guys and dudes love, you know, the action film. We'll start with you, Rusty. I know we talked about in the opening a little bit about man films, but what are your favorite elements of man? What's a man film to you? The guy film, the dude film.
Wow. Like I said, yeah, the Bond movies definitely are. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that are really, you know, well, sort of the takeoff on something like that would be the Derek Flint movies.
Yeah.
With James Coburn, and definitely, I mean, like, you know, he's surrounded by the women all the time, and just everything's perfect for them. And so yeah, I see those as really the, you know, as far as, you know, that aspect of it, not the action adventure part.
Yeah, I love that you just mentioned the Like Flint and Our Man Flint movies, which if nobody's ever seen them, they're very little heard of, from the 60s with James Coburn. They are great satire off of kind of the spy imagery of the 60s and stuff. Good films. Basically the same question for you, Eric. To you, what is the mainstay of guy films? When you're in the mood to watch a man film, what are the kind of films that you're attracted to?
Well, a lot of action movies like a lot of the Schwarzenegger movies you mentioned, Terminator and Predator, a couple that come to mind, and Commando is insanely quotable. I love when he stabs the guy with the steaming pipe. He's like, let off some steam, but that's always a fun quote. Some other more subtle ones, like The Godfather, to me is one of the ultimate man's films because of the fact that it's about different. I mean, to me, a good man film is one that relates to different experiences that men experience in their life, no matter what political ideology you follow or whatever. There are different things people experience differently, whether they're a man or a woman. And I think a good man film identifies with the stuff that men tend to value and experience in their lifetimes, things they consider rites of passage or just things they like to do in general.
Yeah.
So to me, yeah, The Godfather is another good one. Some good older ones, Seven Samurai I think is a really good one, of course.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of the ensemble ones, like I mentioned, Seven Samurai, Dirty Dozen, because you know you can't go wrong with Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson and.
Well, even the Old
guys.
West remake of the Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Got great Western, great dialogue, great writing for it.
There's Steve McQueen.
Yeah, Steve McQueen, James Coburn was in that one. Charles Bronson, Yul Brynner. I mean, that's a man's cast, for sure. I love like Steve McQueen and stuff when the guy's like trying to bribe him with money, and he's like, "No, we don't do money. We deal in lead."
Yeah.
Good stuff. Now, I guess taking the same topic and stuff, Tommy.
Okay.
When you watch films and you think of like guy movies and the testosterone-driven, explosions, whatever. What movie do you feel for you are like guy films that you watch?
Anything with Clint Eastwood, really.
Yeah, I can see
I used
that.
to, a buddy of mine got me hooked on Clint Eastwood. We'd always go over to his house and we'd smoke cigars and watch the old spaghetti westerns. And it doesn't get more manly than that.
Yeah.
That's right.
There may be some explosions somewhere else. But
That's kind of weird though, because Fistful of Dollars
Yep.
is also a Kurosawa movie who did Seven Samurai, was Yojimbo. Sergei Leone remade
Cool.
that to make Fistful of Dollars.
Cool.
That's my favorite samurai flick. He's just the total badass.
Yeah.
He's just one guy. There's the cinematography in it is just genius. You can see how when it was made, how it affected people and how they did westerns. I know for me, because for me, guy movies is like action and adventure. Indiana Jones.
Oh,
The first
yeah,
one,
definitely.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
That's for me. That's the man. And go all the way back for the grandfather of, at least I guess it comes down to opinion, of action adventures film for me would be Gunga Din, the man films. 1936, I want to say, with Cary Grant and Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
It's from a Rudyard Kipling book, right?
Yeah, exactly. From a poem of his.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's ultimate epic. All the things that you see nowadays and over the past 70 years or so, and you think about for action films, a lot of those genre things started in Gunga Din.
Okay.
And you also got to remember, going way back, Tarzan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Tarzan. We haven't mentioned Tarzan. And John Wayne.
John Wayne.
Yeah.
The Searchers is my favorite John Wayne movie.
Yeah.
I dig that, man.
Stagecoach, yep.
Yep.
Well, see, Stagecoach back in the 30s, but for me, The Searchers for John Wayne.
Yeah.
'Cause, The Searchers is a real complex film for a 50s Western. It's more than just, because, he's kind of a bastard, basically, but it's real deep. He's a pretty bad person, but he's also got a lot of good things to him as well. It's really about his inner struggle more than just cowboys and Indians, which
It shows human dichotomy, that our nature is not one-sided, that we're always duality dealing with each other.
Yeah.
And it's rare because John Wayne films, so many times he played the John Wayne character.
Yeah.
And he was a good actor. When you watch The Quiet Man or Rooster Cogburn and True Grit and stuff like that, and The Searchers, you saw this difference in character that he brought, complexity. But
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men, yeah. Henry Fonda, great movie. Now, Henry Fonda, because we talk spaghetti westerns, one of my favorite is Once Upon a Time in the Old West.
I like when he shoots the kid in the beginning. That's how they introduce him.
Yeah. And that's the only bad guy I know of Henry Fonda ever playing.
Like my friend and I were joking, that would be like if they had Will Smith play a guy who shot kids in the face.
He would
That would be like the
Henry
modern
Fonda's
equivalent
character.
of that.
Yeah, I can see that because it's kind of, they played the same level, at least in America's eye, the same level of characters, and then to have them play a bad guy like that really switched it around.
There's Welcome to Helltown.
Welcome to Helltown.
Wow.
Talk about westerns. We got Blazing Saddles, which I think is the ultimate man movie too. It's a western, comedy, funny.
A scene 5 minutes long based on flagellants alone. Yeah. That's very manly.
Yeah.
How about some more beans, Mr. Taggart? I'd say you boys have had enough. Why don't we give them to Mongo?
Mongo still Sheriff Bort.
See, I was a teenager in the '80s, and that's when really the big influx of the over-the-top, not really thinking a lot action movies came in.
Yeah.
Tango and Cash with Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone. Bullet. Oh, Steve McQueen, Bullet. Yeah.
Yep.
I always like Steve McQueen for action stars. The Great Escape. Him in that scene at the end on the motorcycle. Just says it all. And he was a man's man. He raced race cars. He just wasn't an actor. He was a race car driver.
Right.
I actually talked to in the '80s a police officer who worked at the Beverly Hills Police Department, and he said every few months you could tell when Steve McQueen was bored because he would just blow by the police station doing 120, 130 miles an hour
Nice.
and do it until he got them to chase him, and then lead him on a chase all over town and then get out of it by, hey, let me go buy you guys a beer and I'll sign your autographs. You
Nice.
know, back when you could do that, the 70s were a different time. If you weren't there, you just don't know. And if you can remember the 60s, then you weren't there. At least that's what I've been told. I think Robin Williams said that. I don't know. I guess there's different levels to what people would consider a guy movie. And you have the different ones. Because like when you mentioned The Godfather, for me, Godfather is a family movie.
Yeah.
Weird aspect, but it's about family. It's about the challenges that you have to do to support your family, you know? When the dad dies, he doesn't, or gets sick and he gets shot, he doesn't want Michael Corleone to take over the business, but there's nobody who's fitting enough with the intelligence and temperament both to be able to do the job. And so it really has that family element of, you know, you have to do what you have to for blood, you know. But I can see what you mean by a man movie, because it is manly. I mean, you don't get much too bad about it. And such great writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the line I brought up. I ain't got time to bleed.
I ain't got time to bleed. Yes, those are just great quotable lines. And I love Predator. I actually prefer Predator 2 to Predator.
I never got into those movies.
Really? I could recommend Predator. Well, Predator or Predator 2. I love them both, but Predator 2. Frank Miller, the comic book writer and now screenplay writer of Sin City, he wrote the screenplay for it. It's got Danny Glover, Bill Paxton.
Nice.
Yeah, just good cast, good action, and for me, I love the writing.
Cool. Does Spider-Man count?
I think Spider-Man superhero movies, you know,
Okay, cool.
muscular guys in tights, that counts as a guy movie.
Sure. The other day, I was talking to this girl on Skype, and she calls me Toby because she thinks I look like Tobey Maguire. So she pulled her son into the Skype thing and said, "Look, this is Spider-Man." I was like, "Hey, buddy." He's like, "Oh, you're really Spider-Man." I go, "Yeah, but don't tell nobody." So I gotta kind of count Spider-Man as like a man flick, I guess.
You can, just as long as you don't mention Spider-Man 3, we'll have to throw you off the show.
Okay.
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1, good. I thought Spider-Man 2 was great.
I like the new Spider-Man movies.
I do too, actually.
I think they're way better than.
I
other
mean,
three.
I don't want to like give judgment until I see the new one coming out. You know, I thought Andrew Garfield did a really good job with the first one, though. See, I liked him because of movies that he did before. I saw some of his stuff from England.
Okay.
I guess if I gave a recommendation, there's a trilogy from England called the Red Rider trilogy.
Okay.
There's 3 of them. You got Red Rider in the Year of Our Lord 74, and then 80, and then 84. And Andrew Garfield's in the first one.
Cool.
Really great flicks, though, about serial killer. But him in that, and him in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. When I saw those two, I was like, wow, I really like this kid. And then he nabbed the first Social Network and then the Spider-Man movie. I'm curious to see this new one.
It looks good.
I've read mixed things about it. It almost seems like they have the whole Spider-Man 3 thing going on, where they've tried to fit too much in, and the story and characters really become convoluted.
That tends to happen, though.
It tends
A
to
lot.
happen. Well, you know, people lose the whole thing with filmmaking. I think it's subtlety. You know, and if you're not being subtle and you're trying to force too much in, it's just not going to be a good film.
Okay, here's a question for everybody. Is there a series of cartoons you would consider man films?
Anything Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I think any man can stand here and go, "I'll watch Tom and Jerry right now."
I could.
The male foe in Looney Tunes, they shoot each other in the face and they live.
Yeah.
And it's all about them trying to beat each other up and stuff.
Well, Heavy Metal,
Yep.
which was a cartoon.
Yeah, cartoon chicks with big tits.
Yes. Almost anything done by Ralph Bakshi. Fire and
Fritz the
Ice, Wizards. Fritz the Cat. He named a good one, which is also on Netflix, I guess. Netflix should pay me if I'm going to keep mentioning their movies. I really should, or at least give me free movies or something. I don't know.
My dad said when he was a kid when Fritz the Cat came out, and that was like the one movie he always really wanted to see. He was only like 10 or 11 when it came out. But
Well, at the time it came out, it was rated X. I think over the
Yeah.
years it's dropped to rated R.
RM or
yeah, I'd say it's
Yeah.
not that bad by today's standards.
But it's still pretty good,
Yeah.
or bad, I guess, depending on perspective. You know, back then, at the time that it came out, though, and got an X rating, I mean, even Midnight Cowboy
yeah.
was rated X. It was, at the time, the only rated X movie ever to be nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, it won that year too, I think.
Yeah,
didn't it?
I think so. I think you're right.
But yeah, that's R-rated now, as I have the DVD of it.
Well, I guess that's it for
Okay.
talking about man films. We'll come back and talk about the Chinese Connection. Do you guys have any last-minute man films to throw in, like Bad Boys 2?
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir
talk about
Dogs,
that
I guess
one.
that's a man movie.
Yeah.
Hot Fuzz, any of the Cornetto movies. I don't know if those are man movies. They're just my movies. So yeah, please join us. We'll come back and break down the classic movie, The Chinese Connection. Thank you.
in our costumes and laughing and getting candy, and then she was gone.
Guy with the white face.
His entire head is white.
Tis the season.
Welcome back to Film Speak. I'm sitting here with today's manly co-host Rusty, and talking to our two guests, Eric and Tommy. We had been talking about man films and local projects, and now we're going to break down the classic, The Chinese Connection from 1972. Now, you guys got a chance to watch this movie.
Yes.
Start with you, Tommy. What did you think of The Chinese Connection?
I liked it. It was definitely interesting. Was it just me, or did it seem like Bruce Lee would fight but then pose for the camera?
Yeah.
Like, "Wah!" He hit the guy. "Ah!" You know, like, right? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Is this my good side?
Yeah, right.
Look at me flex.
The subtitles was pretty interesting to see done too. I had no idea what this movie was before I was told to watch it for this, so it was pretty cool though. Do you guys remember the like in every scene? That's like the big like theme,
music,
right?
yeah.
That just like it's not even a drum. It's like
just
they're hitting
sticks.
wood. Yeah,
Yes.
hitting sticks.
Yeah, that's actually I think comes from Buddhist monks.
Okay.
It's music that they use for praying, and they used it to kind of, I think, balance out the fighting in the film. What did you think of the film, Eric?
I really enjoyed it. It was my first time I'd ever seen it. Bruce Lee is someone I've always admired, but admittedly I haven't seen many of his movies. Like I know I watched Enter the Dragon, which is really good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only movie I'd seen before we watched Chinese Connection. And I really enjoyed it. I liked the story a lot, and I thought there was a lot of really incredible fight sequences and stunt pieces and that sort of thing. I'm still trying to figure out if the part where he picks up the handcart and smashes it into the
Yeah,
wall
how did they
was,
do that?
Was that real?
that was real.
Because it looked real.
I know.
It looked like the back part was like bouncing on his elbow, so I'm like, he could be doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He was known for his incredible strength, so it wouldn't shock me if that was actually real.
Yeah, because I like you, I tried to break down that shot of thinking, okay, where could somebody be standing with a lever or the leverage to help him hold that up, and they take the camera and move it enough to where I can't see anything, I can't see any strings. It makes, like you said, is he really holding that up like that?
Yeah, true.
What'd you think of the film, Rusty?
I said that, like everybody else here, except for you probably, who've seen it several times, but I've only, that was my first experience with it. And of course, remembering the recent Kill Bill series, you watch this and say, well, that's where that came from. You've got him surrounded in a circle by guys, or, like 30 of them. He's looking around like, okay, let's see, what order do I pick them off in?
Yeah.
But
kind of like emulating that scene from Kill Bill when she's in the club and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the coming up with, I mentioned it to other people before about having watched it. I came up with a good tagline: "Be true to your school."
Be true to your school.
Because it's a conflict for people who don't know about it. It's a conflict between Japanese and Chinese martial arts schools.
Now, the director of that film, he's also the writer. His name escapes me. I think it's like Wu Li.
That sounds familiar.
I was right. It is, no, I was Lo Wei. It's Lo Wei, not, I got him backwards. But he wrote and directed it. Bruce Lee refused to work with him ever again.
Why?
Because of the hints of racism and bigotry that were in the Chinese Connection. Because it was heavily, and which you can kind of understand the Chinese feeling towards the Japanese, especially, I'm sure in the early 70s they hadn't quite gotten over the occupation during the time period of World War II. But Bruce Lee was really against the heavy racism and insulting of the Japanese in it.
It seemed like there was some of that going on in the movie.
Yeah.
So.
And then that's where they have issues. It's like conflicts going back a couple hundred years of why they don't like each other, But Bruce Lee didn't want that to be a focus of his films, not hate, And plus, the Chinese Connection was based on a real person from turn of the century, except he didn't die. He escaped Shanghai. They kind of made it more dramatic in the Chinese Connection.
The teacher,
yeah. But there's another interesting thing I find about the movie. I mean, just because you think of two Asian star greats. Chinese Connection has both Bruce Lee, who's a star, and then Jackie Chan's in it too.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a stunt double.
Oh.
When they do the assault at the school.
Can you get kicked through glass or
through the paper?
Through the paper.
Got kicked through the paper, and then also when they're all assaulting him in the courtyard, you can see him as one of the guys who just gets hit and falls back. And you have to be quick. It's almost like taking your remote control and going frame by frame, and then you can go, "There's Jackie Chan."
A lot of people think Steve Martin's in it. I won't give away the ending, but the white-haired cop who's in the movie at the end, a lot of people think that's Steve Martin.
That's Steve Martin. I think actually when that came out, he probably still had color in his hair in '72.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, he gets into where Bruce Lee does a couple of disguises.
Yeah.
And a disguise where he dresses up as a phone repairman. And a lot of angles, I'm looking at Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Very acting like him. Like, wow, this is.
And the one thing I did like about the film was it seemed like that was kind of common, that they could just go around killing each other. But then at the end, he was like, "I'll go to jail for what I did."
Yeah.
And that's how it ended. And I was like, yeah, that's a good way to end it. Because it's like, they don't just live happily ever after. He killed all those people.
Yeah. And it comes down to that whole thing, too, of on the path of vengeance, always dig two graves. Because if you want it bad enough, you have to be willing to sacrifice yourself for it. And Bruce Lee choreographed all the fight scenes in that movie himself.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, he and also during the making of the Chinese Connection, because around Hong Kong, martial arts schools were totally against him exposing their secrets for film, because the movie before that, Fist of Fury, and then the Chinese Connection, nobody had ever shown actual martial arts, how they were done and stuff in movies. And so they were sending people to the film set to fight Bruce Lee. So basically when he's filming the movie, he's doing all the stunts, he's doing all the choreography and working with these guys. They'd call break. He'd walk over here, have 10 guys lined up, just freaking go through 4 or 5 of them while he's on break, kick the crap out of them. Oh, it's time to shoot. You guys hold on, go back and shoot. And that's what he would do, amazingly enough. I mean, so that's a manly man.
Yeah.
Let me see Jean-Claude, Steven Seagal,
Yeah.
frickin' Arnold Schwarzenegger, any of these jack-off guys. Okay, go and do that. Have people who are there on your film set to really try to kill you. Okay, and every day you're having to
off
fight.
camera, and then they're choreographing it for camera. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's just nuts.
That's
Yeah, I
pretty
picked up
manly.
something while I was doing this. Yeah. Well, you mentioned that, and I didn't realize that this was done after he did Green Hornet here in America.
Yes, yeah. He actually got very discouraged with American Hollywood, with the film industry in America, by how they portrayed negative stereotypes of Orientals, Asians, and so
My
he
greatest
left.
servant. I mean,
Yeah.
sidekick. Yeah.
Well, I think the cut for him was he was helping develop the show Kung Fu, and then got passed over to be played by a white man, David Carradine, and that was the last straw for him. And so he went to Hong Kong, made 3 films there, and then Enter the Dragon was a joint America-Hong Kong venture, and then he died. So that sucks.
Unfortunately.
You know, mentioning Kill Bill, you mentioned Enter the Dragon. I love because he used that song from the opening of Enter the Dragon in Kill Bill. That bow, 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 da 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 da.
That's right.
You know, da 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 da. Yeah, and that's used in Kill Bill. He just sampled that music along with the orange jumpsuit that Bruce Lee wore.
So wasn't that in what was it, Game of Death or something?
That
Is
was
the
it.
one where
Game
he
of Death
wears
wasn't
the
Enter the
yellow-
Dragon. It was Game of Death. Yeah,
Yeah,
the one with Chuck Norris.
that's right.
Anything Chuck Norris is pretty manly in my book.
He studied from Bruce Lee.
Yeah?
Yeah. Chuck Norris did. James Colburn, Steve McQueen
Oh, wow.
studied under Bruce Lee. The basketball player who appeared in Game of Death. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yep.
Thank you, Lana, shouting from off camera there. No, that's perfect. Yes, she's not on the show,
Thanks for interrupting the main
but she's
show.
still on the show. Yeah, way to one up the men. Naming the basketball player. But yeah, it's I don't know, Bruce Lee movies. I watched those all as a kid, and still watch them now. Love the Chinese Connection.
You were saying something off camera about the subtitles versus the
I hate dubbing.
dubbed. But in a lot of Clint Eastwood stuff, those background people were all dubbed.
Yeah, like in the
But that was like,
Italian
yeah, that
ones.
was like
Yeah.
really good dubbing.
That was really good dubbing because they did that because they filmed those in Italy.
Really.
That's how a lot of Italian
Yeah.
horror
Oh, yeah.
films are as well. If you watch a movie like Suspiria, you can kind of tell when some people are speaking
Okay.
English on set and others are speaking Italian.
Yeah.
But that's because, with the Sergio Leone ones, since half of them were Italian actors, they just spoke their native language.
Well, even when they were speaking English, they might have been speaking English. They had thick accents.
Yeah.
So they'd have to go through
Oh, yeah.
and redub it for the American market.
Yeah.
'Cause
I know an actress out in L.A. named Deborah Dutch, and she was a co-star of a sort of a spin-off. It's called Bruce Lee Fights Back from the Grave, and it was Bruce L-E-I, so spelled it differently. But yeah, the dubbing in that was, just horrendous.
Well, I watch, it ruins it for me when I'm watching, because we were talking about, I was watching Chinese Connection. I did not have a subtitled version. It was dubbed. And the guy they had doing Bruce Lee's voice sounded like a deep voiced Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of hard to take somebody seriously who's like, that's my teacher. I'm going to get you now. I mean, how threatening is that? So Aside from the Chinese connection, I mean, this has all been a big man show. As we wrap it up, are there any final thoughts on movies that you guys would like to leave with? Start with you, Eric.
Just in general, or
Just in general.
no? I don't have anything on my head right now.
Nothing on the head right now. Any man films you want to throw in?
I'm trying to think what I didn't mention. I already mentioned John Wayne movies. I just kind of find it a long, comprehensive list of movies every guy should see long ago, but all the titles we haven't mentioned are escaping me.
I dig that.
And I mentioned No Country for Old Men recently. I think that's a good manly movie from recent times. I like how that's a kind of an artsy film, but it's also very much an action movie as well.
Yeah.
It's almost like a more sophisticated action thriller in a way.
Yeah, the way Josh Brolin has to constantly keep running with that money.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then the tension that film builds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love not just the atmosphere, but just the general tone of it as
Yeah.
well. It's very, I don't know about nihilistic, but it's very...
Well, you know, the original book of that was written by the guy who wrote True Grit.
yeah.
That's why it has that kind of a Western feel to it, too.
Well, actually, I think the book's written by Cormac McCarthy.
Thank you.
But actually, True Grit's written by someone different, but the Coen brothers did the other True Grit movies, probably why you're thinking of that.
Yeah. Now, how about you, Tommy?
I think anything with Humphrey Bogart in it
Yeah.
would be, you know, I mean, like, he's older now, but he was the guy of all guy films back in his day.
He did.
Yeah.
I love Treasure of the Sierra Madre is one of my favorites of his.
I think he was a...
Maltese Falcon for me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's the name of that character he plays in Maltese Falcon? He's in...
Sam Spade?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, for me, I love the Maltese Falcon because he never carries a gun.
Yeah, that's right.
Whenever he wants one, he smacks around one of the other guys and just takes theirs from him.
Yeah.
You know, he's that much of a man. But yeah, I love Humphrey Bogart. The Treasure of Sierra Madre, Key Largo, African Queen.
Yep.
He was a rebel on and off camera.
You know, his lip was paralyzed. That's why he had that signature snarl.
That really? Like
Yeah.
that? I had no idea.
Yeah, he got an accident in World War I. Shell hit a boat, wood went through his lip and paralyzed it. So that's how he got that signature look.
How manly is that?
Any last thoughts, Rusty?
No.
Nope.
Back to you.
Back to me. I guess that would be it. Thank you, Tommy and Eric, for joining us.
Thank you.
Come join me and Rusty for the goodbye. And Flying Bagels.
Yeah.
We had a
What
flying
other
bagel.
show has Flying Bagels? Screw you. We'll see you later.
Bye.
And
You're in black. You want to pick it up for the end?
pick it up for the end.
Okay. Stand by. On 5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, that was a great show. Thank you, Tommy and Eric, for coming on this week.
Join us next week when Lana and I will show you creative and interesting things to do with peanut butter when you're naked.
Now, what you two do is out of my hands.
Since this was a guy film episode, how about we end with some guy taglines?
I'll be back.
Hasta la vista, baby.
I ain't got time to bleed.
I am the Duke of New York, #1.
You gotta love a good man movie.
Heck, Rusty, sometimes you gotta love a bad one too.
And be sure to check us out on Facebook.
That is at facebook.com, Talk Films to Me. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, clear.
Clear? And on to the...
Bagel
it.
fly at us.
Lion.